Hello, my name is James Pywell and this is the 92 podcast. I'm on a quest to speak to one fan from each of the 92 football teams that make up the Premier League, the Championship, League One and League Two. Each episode I'll shine the spotlight on a different club, talking to their fans, playing silly games and quizzes and learning what it's like to be a supporter of their team. In this episode the focus is on League Two's Cambridge United.
I'm really upset that we can't really be in the ground to watch it. We was lucky that we got to see 3 games in December at the Abbey, but we lost to it. A lot of it went on kind of clearing old debt. They refurbished the toilets, is what everyone remembers them for. You know, we go to the toilet in a nice stainless steel urinal now, rather than just kind of going in a hole in the floor.
Now, as ever, I don't really know too much about Cambridge, other than that they play in League Two, which is why I've enlisted the help of Owen from the Cambridge United podcast Under the Abbey Stand to help me out. Hello, Owen, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, James, thanks for having me.
How are you doing today?
Not too bad. So it's a nice bright afternoon, which is good. Kind of put me in a good mood. And yeah, we've got a game later this afternoon, which I'm looking forward to. Hopefully, we'll continue our recent fairly decent form.
Yeah. So how long have you been a fan of Cambridge?
The first game I went to was back in 1995. So what's that? Must be getting on for 26 years now. So yeah. Yeah, a lot longer than I thought when you think about it that way. So,
why Cambridge? Were you raised in Cambridge? Why Cambridge United?
I was raised just outside. I was raised about half an hour away. I guess around that age I would have been 12 or so, and kind of starting to show an interest in football outside of just kind of watching internationals or watching it on Match of the Day. So my dad used to go in the 80s when he was a little bit younger. For a variety of reasons, just kind of stopped going over time once I was born. I didn't really show a huge amount of interest in it until kind of I was 11, 12 years old. So it was at that point he decided to take me along, and Cambridge were just about our closest team to where I grew up. So that's why Cambridge. I kind of regret it at times. I kind of regret maybe not being born a little bit closer to Man City or someone like that. But it was a good game. The first game we went to, it was a 3-1 win against Colchester, and we had seats in our main stand, and Colchester had a player sent off right in front of us. Colchester were one of the local kind of rivals. They were probably about 40 minutes from where I grew up, so it could quite easily have been Colchester. But yeah, luckily Cambridge won out. Yeah, they had a player sent off right in front of us, and the atmosphere was just absolutely electric in that game. And from then on, I was just absolutely hooked. Whether I would have been if we'd have lost or if the result had gone the other way, I don't know. But just from that moment, from seeing the crowd kind of really getting at the player who'd been sent off, who was Peter Corley from Colchester. I don't know if anyone remembers him. I don't remember too much about him, but yeah, he got sent off right in front of where we were sitting, and everyone was going mad at him. It was brilliant, and yeah, the goals were fantastic as well. One of the goal scorers, I believe, was Carlo Corazin, who went on to become a Oldham and Plymouth player and play for the Canadian national team as well.
Cool. So you mentioned that sometimes you wish that you lived a little bit closer to Manchester. Do you not think that supporting a lower league / non-league team makes it a little bit more interesting?
Yeah, no, definitely. I was joking there. I wouldn't change supporting Cambridge for the world. Even the times we ended up in the conference, the times we got stuffed every single week in our kind of multitude of relegation seasons. No, I wouldn't change any of that for the world. It's certainly a roller coaster journey, and I guess one of the things I always think, when people say, it's the same question every fan of every League Two team gets, or every kind of team below the Premier League gets. Like, when you meet someone and you're like, oh, who do you support? And you're like, oh yeah, Cambridge. And we're like, oh, and who's your Premier League team? It's like, no, there's no Premier League team. It makes the highs all that sweeter when you put up with the rubbish, I guess. And if that's a 1-0 win to stay up, or if that's a decent result against a Premier League team in the cup, them highs are absolutely uncomparable. I'm sure winning the Premier League's fantastic. I'm sure Leicester fans will tell you that's amazing. I'm sure winning the Champions League's absolutely brilliant as well. But you're sharing that with 100,000 other people, and it's just nice to be able to share your your wins, your little victories with your kind of your fellow supporters, I suppose.
What are the supporters like at Cambridge?
Pretty decent on the whole. Yeah, it's a strange place, Cambridge. It's it's obviously a big university city, so most of the population is students who've come to the city with their allegiances already sorted out. They'll come to Cambridge and they'll support one of the big teams or one of the teams where they're from. So they sometimes you'll get people come along. I mean, Nick Hornby famously did when he wrote Fever Pitch. There was a section there when he visited Cambridge and started watching Cambridge for a bit. So it does happen, but it's hard to retain fans, and it's even harder to retain them when you're at this level and not massively successful, I guess. But no, our fans are fantastic. We've always been very vocal. We've always travelled in good numbers, considering to away games, and for even when we was at our worst in the conference, there was still a steady band of fans kind of there at every game. And since we've been back in the league, the last kind of seven or so seasons, that's only started to grow again, and we're starting to get decent numbers in through the, or we were pre-pandemic starting to get decent numbers back in through the doors now.
So obviously we are still in the midst of this horrible national lockdown, but what is it like at the Abbey Stadium when fans are allowed in?
It can be like nowhere on earth. If the Abbey's full, the atmosphere is it's only a small ground. It holds just under 9,000 people, so not big by any means. But when it's full, it can just be absolutely incredible. We have the Newmarket Road end, which is a small stand behind the goal, hosts the most vocal United fans and the ones that sing. They can lead the whole ground almost in singing. I think the last time we was anywhere close to it being a sellout was the season we went up. We hosted Man United at the Abbey in a FA Cup fourth round game, and that was just incredible. I stood in a different place for that game. I stood in the South Habin, which is normally they close it off. Actually, it's just like an end of a terrace, or they give it over to away fans if they need to. But they opened it up to home fans that day, and I stood there. So it was unusual watching the game from a different part of the ground, but it was just kind of coming through the little tunnel there onto the terrace, and seeing these these superstar players warm up in front of you, but at the same time just hearing this constant wall of noise from the other areas of the ground. It's just fantastic. But at the same time, it can also be a very very quiet place if things aren't going well. It's hard to rouse the fans when the team are playing badly, and we've had a little bit of that lately. But over the past kind of season or so, we've got a really good kind of crowd of amount of younger fans young fans that are supporting United and proud to support United, which is fantastic to hear them kind of make a real effort. You see flags and banners at most games, and it's just the atmosphere is brilliant. On the whole, it's absolutely brilliant.
Obviously, we all can't wait to get back into stadiums. Hopefully, it won't be too much longer. But how are you coping with not being able to go to the matches and watching games on iFollow?
Yeah, okay. Actually, I listened to the podcast you did with the Northampton fan, and he was saying he's watching more football now than ever before. And it's the same for me. I mean, where I live at the moment it's only a short drive to the Abbey, so fortunately, I was able to get there for the, I think, 3 games we had this season in the league when we was allowed in, which was brilliant. But it's great. Like I'd always kind of try and get to as many home games as possible. I actually bought my first season ticket in years this year, just because I've moved a little bit closer to the area. So although I've not really been able to use it, but I'd always try and get to as many home games as possible, and the away games that were either local or if I could rouse up enough mates to kind of go, and it was a good big day out, we'd do that. But I mean, this season I think I've watched every single game we've had so far, and I mean it helps that the team's been playing well, and the club often kind of tweet out the number of fans we get watching on iFollow, which are really good numbers. They obviously need that money. It's it must be really hard trying to make ends meet a business that traditionally doesn't make ends meet. When you kind of lost your your main form of income. Yeah, I've been watching that, but it's definitely, I think for a lot of fans, maybe, well, not a lot of fans, but some fans would maybe not decide to spend an hour and a half of their Saturday watching Cambridge if we weren't doing so well. So yeah, it's definitely been a lot easier this season. The iFollow service is really good. The commentators are good. The club themselves have kind of gone to the effort of providing like pre-match content where they'll interview the players on the walk-in, from the car park to the changing rooms. They'll interview the manager before the game. They have a pretty enthusiastic kind of match day presenter who's really good and kind of gets everyone it feels as close as you can get to kind of watching your team on Sky, which for us never really happens.
In a way, it's kind of like you're more connected to the club in a pandemic, isn't it? It's kind of weird.
It is, yeah. The club have been absolutely brilliant. I mean, United for a long time haven't been the best club at communicating with the fans, and have maybe seen the fans as a little bit of an annoyance, I suppose. But over the last kind of three years or so, we've kind of got a new chairman in, a new chief exec, and they've just really changed how the club's perceived by the fans. And I mean, to be honest with you, it's done absolutely nothing wrong over the pandemic. As soon as the pandemic hit, they were open with the fans. They kind of said, this is what's happening. We're putting the playing staff are going on furlough. We're kind of voting for the leagues to end on this basis. They've had members of the management team, members of the playing staff, kind of calling local residents, vulnerable residents. They've been out delivering food parcels and things like that. Their work in the community is absolutely faultless. And even when was it? I kind of around Christmas time, the manager phoned up season ticket holders and just kind of thanked them for their support. And yeah, they're going above and beyond what they need to, really. I think some clubs maybe sometimes see fans as a bit of a cash cow. Right, we've got their money, get them in the ground, get them out at the end. That's it. But yeah, at United there is this real connection with fans, and it's great to see. It's really great to see. I mean, got a couple of fans organisations as well that are kind of doing really useful stuff around the ground. Trying to raise money where we can. We've obviously got the Under the Abbey Stand podcast and fanzine, which it's a bit of a labour of love, kind of producing a fanzine especially in this climate. Not many clubs tend to have them. Some of the younger fans don't really kind of get what they are, don't really get fanzine culture. It was definitely a bigger thing earlier, for slightly older fans. So, we're trying hard to kind of keep fans enthusiastic about the club. The club are doing their best to do the same. So, yeah, it's kind of good vibe around the place at the moment.
I was going to say, it definitely seems like a good time to be a Cambridge United fan. What is some of the best moments you've experienced as a fan of the team?
For most people, they'll probably say the kind of back-to-back promotions in the early 90s where we where we went up under John Beck and almost got into the Premier League. We got to the playoffs there in 1992 for the first season of the Premier League. But that was a little bit before my time. So, I mean, for me personally, we had a fantastic season in 1998-99 under Roy McFarland, who most people know as England defender. Was also Bolton manager, and I think played for Derby as well. He built a really great team in the late 90s. He played this 4-3-3 formation. It was very attacking. We had really exciting players. We had John Taylor play for us. He was part of John Beck's team in the early 90s. He was Dion Dublin's strike partner. His career didn't quite go in the same direction as Dublin's, but he still had a decent career around the leagues. He played for Luton and Bradford. He ended up back at the Abbey at the end of the 90s and kind of spurred us on to another promotion. And that season was a brilliant season. We finished second in the league. We always seem to finish second in the league. Yeah, we came second that season. Brentford went up as champions. It all came down to the last game of the season at the Abbey, which was absolutely full. It was us versus Brentford, and basically whoever won, I think we needed to win, Brentford needed to draw, would go up as champions. Both teams were already promoted, so it didn't really matter in the scheme of things. But yeah, we lost 1-0 to a Lloyd Owusu goal, finished second. That season also took us to Hillsborough in the League Cup, Worthington Cup, I think it was called at the time, where we beat Sheffield Wednesday 1-0. They were a Premier League team at the side. They had Di Canio, they had Carboni, they had Des Walker, Kevin Pressman. It was a pretty decent team that kind of held their own in the Premier League for a few seasons. And yeah, we beat them 1-0 with a goal after about 4 minutes from Trevor Benjamin, who, again, he's a big kind of Cambridge United legend. He's a very nomadic striker. He's probably played for about 90 of the 92 league teams. He's certainly been about a bit, but he started his career at Cambridge and really kind of made his mark with that goal against Sheffield Wednesday. That was when the early rounds were two-legged, so they come back to the Abbey maybe a week later, I guess, and we drew 1-1 in that game. We scored an own goal, and then Trevor Benjamin scored a header, which set us up with another away game to Nottingham Forest in the next round at the City Ground. And Cambridge took 3,500 to 4,000 fans to that, and that probably doesn't sound like a lot for some of your listeners who support bigger clubs, but that's basically what we were getting at home. That's our home gate went to an away game, and Nottingham Forest weren't really expecting it. They were in the Premier League at the time as well. It was a midweek game. They opened 2 turnstiles, and the game ended up being pushed back kind of 15 minutes or so, just while they tried to get as many United fans as possible in, and it went kind of quite quickly downhill from there. We were 3-0 down after about 50 minutes or so, 50, 60 minutes. And our manager just kind of did some, this is Roy McFarlane, did something kind of quite unexpected. I mean, for most teams, when you get to that stage, you're getting 3-0 down, you're getting thumped by a team kind of 3 levels above you. You tend to shut up shop, don't you? You take off your striker, put on a defender and stop yourself getting thrashed. He put on another striker, and we ended up drawing that game 3-3. We scored 3 goals in the last half an hour. One of them was a penalty from John Taylor, club legend, and the game ended up going to penalties, which we went out on, sadly. But it's strange. That's for most Cambridge fans my age. That game is in everyone's memory. Oh, do you remember when we went to Nottingham Forest and drew 3-3? It was brilliant. I mean, ultimately we lost that game on penalties. We didn't go any further in the competition, but it was. Yeah, it felt like there were 50,000 Cambridge fans there. That was incredible. Other kind of big games I remember after that season. So we got promoted that season. We went into the what's now League One, I suppose. It was Division 2. We weren't really great. We kind of, we held our own for a couple of seasons. I remember, I think the 2001 season we just about stayed up by the skin of our teeth, and we went to Swansea for the last game of the season at the Vetch Field. It was, it was one of those beautiful kind of May afternoons. Cambridge had taken, probably 1,000 fans or so. They'd been relegated. That season back to the 3rd division. I mean, when you look at them now, it's a little bit different. And again, that was just, a great afternoon. It was, it was quite an atmosphere there. They weren't very happy. We was very happy to be staying up. That was a great game as well. More recently than that, I guess, so we spent 9 years in the conference. One of those years, we nearly went out of the conference. I think it was for 2006, 2007 season. It would have been our second season in the conference. We had no money. We'd gone into administration the year we went out of the league. We'd been literally saved by the skin of our teeth, thanks to Richard Caborn, is it the MP? He was sports minister at the time. Kind of managed to kind of stop HMRC winding us up. We didn't have a penny to our name, but somehow built this team that stayed in the conference for 9 seasons in the end. But it stayed up its first season. The second season was kind of more of the same. It was this team of essentially no-hopers and journeymen, really. But we did have a guy called Robbie Simpson, who was a young lad, local lad, and we were really close to going out of the conference that season. It kind of came down to this one game, probably about 3 games from the end of the season at Aldershot. It's a horrible place to go. It's a difficult place to go anytime. They've got a very vociferous fan base, to say the least. That could have been the last game we ever played. We took probably 1,000, 1,200 fans down there, and Robbie Simpson scored this goal, which just took the roof off. Just absolutely took the roof off the place, and we ended up staying up that season. I think we won the next couple of games after that. So it was just we couldn't buy a win before that game, and then it was just. To look back on how it could have gone if we'd have lost that game now, I don't think I'd be here talking to you anymore. It's it really was kind of dire times. Luckily, after that, we had Jimmy Quinn come in, the former Reading striker. He came in. We also had Gary Brabin as well come in, who I think was Luton manager for a while. And we had kind of two much better seasons. We kind of got our house in order a little bit. And had 2 seasons that ended up with us getting to Wembley twice, actually, in the playoff final. We finished I think we finished second both seasons because that's what we do. Yeah, we got to a playoff final at the new Wembley. It was 2008, 2009, just after it had opened. We lost both those games, and that was kind of gutting. It was it was good days out until the football starts, as is often the case of of the lower league fan, isn't it? That was pretty gutting, and then we just kind of carried on knocking around the conference. We didn't really look like challenging too much till the 2013-2014 season. We got Richard Money in. He won the European Cup at Liverpool actually in 1980, I believe. He was a previous Luton manager as well, and he just kind of started in. It's funny, we was always a big team in the conference. There weren't many teams bigger than us, fan base wise.
Yeah.
But money wise, we were skint. I mean, we were down there. One of the teams we were down there was Forest Green, who, you look at them now, they're kind of riding high in League Two like us. They were staying up by the skin of their teeth every season. But they had the money. It's a really difficult league. It's a really difficult league. Only 2 teams go up from it, and you can kind of finish. It's depressing as hell to finish second and then lose to a team that finished 6th. It's a really, really, really horrible league to get out of. But this 2013-2014 season, Richard Money came in. Our first game was against Halifax at the Abbey. We won 5-1, and I was on my way to go to that, and I got to King's Cross. I was living in London at the time. I got to King's Cross, and there was some overrunning engineering works or something going on, which meant I couldn't go there. So I ended up kind of going back and watching it on. I think it was on Setanta Sports or BT Sport. I ended up watching it, and it was like, we looked really good. We looked like a really decent side, and that's when I thought, hang on a minute, this could be our season. And we had a superb run that season. We was top of the league for a long time. Luton ended up catching us. I mean, Luton were much like us, kind of. I don't want to say far too big to be in the conference because that sounds really arrogant. But when you look at some of the other teams down there, there's still teams now that are far too big to be in the conference that shouldn't be there. But that's how it is. All it takes is one bad season at this level, and you're in real trouble. We ended up finishing second that season, as per usual, and going to the playoffs again. This time we had to beat Halifax in the semi-finals, which kind of brought it around quite nicely. After thrashing them that first game of the season, we ended up losing 1-0 at Halifax and then beating them 2-0 at the Abbey, thanks to a couple of goals from Delano Sam York, who's forever a hero. Then we had Gateshead in the final, and the first 2 playoff finals we had in them conference years were against Torquay and Exeter, both big teams, both teams that kind of should be in or about League Two. They're the same size to us. Gateshead, on the other hand, I don't want to sound disrespectful, but it's like they were basically a part-time team punching well above their weight. And they had some decent players. They had Marcus Maddison, who's at Bolton now. He was at our rivals Peterborough for a long time. We made hard work of it at first, actually. We went 1-0 up just after half-time, thanks to Liam Hughes. Scored a header. And then about 5-10 minutes after that, Ryan Donaldson whipped in this peach of a free kick. And we were 2-0 up. Then we conceded, so the ending was quite nervy. And then probably in the last minute of injury time, the last minute of what should have been 2 minutes of injury time, our skipper Ian Miller went down, and he did his Achilles or something. He was lying in agony on the pitch for about 10 minutes, but before they kind of finally managed to take him off, and we then had to sit through 10 minutes of injury time. God, it was the most nervy time of my life. They were just throwing everything at us. They come really close, and again, I think if we hadn't have gone up that season, would we still be here now? I really don't know. Luckily we did. Luckily, we won it 2-1, and it was fantastic. And the next season we were back in the Football League after 9 years. We won our first game that season against Plymouth 1-0, which was a great game. The Abbey was, it probably wasn't full, but it felt full. It's just great to see the Abbey rocking again after all that time. That season we drew Man United in the FA Cup, which game I kind of mentioned earlier, and we drew 0-0 with them at the Abbey and forced a replay at Old Trafford. So that brought in quite a bit of money to the club, which they then pretty much wasted, actually. So some of it, I say wasted, that's a little bit unfair. So a lot of it went on kind of clearing old debt. They refurbished the toilets, is what everyone remembers them for. We go to a toilet in a nice stainless steel urinal now, rather than just kind of going in a hole in the floor. And they did a bit of work, like updating the hospitality area of the club to try and bring in a little bit of money where they can. So yeah, that kind of, I'd like to say that set us up. It certainly puts us back on the map. Drawing 0-0 with Man United. It wasn't a vintage Man United team, but they still had Van Persie, they still had Rooney, they had Daley Blind, they had Rizwan Mata at the time. Still a strong team. But yeah, that was a great game. We went up to Old Trafford again. Loads and loads of United fans. This is a great thing about us, is we will travel in number. If there's a big game, it feels like half Cambridge is piling into coaches, piling into trains to get there. And we definitely support our club when we need it. We was never going to win at Old Trafford. We lost 3-0. I don't remember a huge amount about the game, to be honest. It took me about 5 hours to drive up there, and almost as long to drive back. It was just felt like solid traffic and then motorway closures. It was but no, it was great. I wouldn't change it for the world. And then kind of since then, it's just been a little bit mediocre, really. From the highs of that first season, we've kind of had a few managers since then. We had Sean Derry. He was okay as a manager. His brand of football was boring. His brand of football was dreadful. I guess it's kind of how Spurs fans feel about Mourinho now. It was really horrible football to watch. But that was our highest finish in the league. We finished 9th in 2016. I think we finished 11th the next season. It wasn't pretty to watch. Yeah, we were comfortable, we were safe. After that, we had Joe Dunn. He didn't do much. Then Colin Calderwood. And everyone was really excited about Colin Calderwood. I know the guy you spoke to from Northampton earlier speaks quite highly of him. I think he got promoted there. I think he got promoted to Forest. He obviously has some good connections at his former clubs at Tottenham. So we was kind of, we was pretty excited. Colin Calderwood, he should be decent. He'll get us up. He was dreadful. He was, oh my God, he was a dreadful manager. The brand of football was rubbish. He ended up getting sacked in January 2020. We lost two home games in a row at the Abbey, 4-0. One to Salford. Okay, you can kind of accept losing to Salford. They're a big team in the league. The other one was to Stevenage. Stevenage had barely won a game all season. And they turned up at the Abbey and absolutely rolled us over 4-0. Oh, that was a real low point. That was a real low point. Thankfully, he went. They brought in his assistant, Mark Bonner. Most people don't know Mark Bonner. We didn't really know much of him. We knew he was an assistant at the club. We knew he'd been a youth coach at the club. He's 35 years old or so. He had no, he's never had a playing career. He's never played professionally. And I think everyone was just a little bit underwhelmed by that. Everyone was a bit, okay, Mark Bonner, he's cheap. We'll see what he does. He's been a revelation this season. He's been fantastic. He's open. He's honest. He's kind of quite not unguarded in his interviews, but he gives you a good insight into the game. He talks a great game. He's got us playing this really nice attacking brand of football. We're scoring loads of goals. We're not winning every single game. I don't think. I certainly didn't expect us to. That's kind of the potted history of Cambridge United up until now. It's been like I said earlier, a bit of a roller coaster, I guess.
Absolutely. So we've discussed what it's like to be a fan. Now it's that point of the podcast where I test your knowledge. I've been scouring the Wikipedia page for Cambridge and I've collated some questions together. You're going to have 5 questions about Cambridge and 5 questions about football in the 92 in general. How do you think you're going to do on this?
Oh God, I'm going to be embarrassed if I don't do well on my Cambridge ones. I'm going to say I'll get 4 out of 5 of the Cambridge ones, and I'll be upset if I don't get 3 of the 92 ones.
Let's see how you do then. Question 1. Cambridge's biggest league win was a 7-0 demolishing of which other EFL team in 2016?
Was it Morecambe?
It was Morecambe, well
yes.
done. Who is the all-time Premier League record appearance holder?
All-time Premier League record appearance holder? I don't know. I was going to say Giggs. I was going to say Ryan Giggs. Gareth Barry?
Who do you think? Gareth Barry, it's Gareth Barry.
Yeah, I knew it was one of them. Yeah.
Wes Hoolahan signed for Cambridge in July last year, but which A-League team did he join from?
That was Newcastle Jets.
It was.
Yeah.
What EFL team play their games at the Keep Moat Stadium?
Doncaster.
Yep. In May 1970, Cambridge played Chelsea in a friendly in what is still the club's record attendance at the Abbey Stadium, but what was the reason for the friendly?
I think it was for the floodlights. It was like the inaugural game for our new floodlights.
It was, yes.
Yeah.
Elton John was once chairman at which championship team?
Watford.
Yeah. Which former Cambridge player was the first person to score a goal in a Wembley playoff final?
Dion Dublin.
Yes. David Beckham went on loan to which EFL club from Manchester United to get some first team experience in the 94-95 season?
It was Preston.
Yep. In the 2014 playoff final, which Cambridge won at Wembley 2-1, who was awarded man of the match?
Oh, Ryan Donaldson?
It was. And finally, referee Mike Dean is a fan of which League Two team?
He's a Tranmere fan.
He is.
Yeah.
So how do you think you did on that?
Okay, yeah.
You got 9 out of 10, which is
I'll take
the
that.
highest score we've had on all of our episodes so far, so well done. And there were some tough ones in there too. So moving on to the current season then, you're right up there at the moment. It looks like you can keep it up. You'll either be right in the mix for the playoffs, if not automatic promotion. How's the season gone from your point of view?
It's gone better than anyone could ever have expected. We did a podcast, myself and the other lads that do Under the Abbey Stand. We did one at the start of the season when we kind of said, what are our expectations for this season, and they were all pretty much mid-table, maybe 10th if we're lucky.
Yeah.
As that season's gone on, we're now sitting here in. I think we're currently second in the league. That could obviously change quite quickly, and we're all thinking, this season's going to be a massive disappointment if we don't get promoted. So it's funny how quickly things change. Yeah, so certainly at the start of the season, I wasn't expecting very much at all, really. Kind of just survival, not getting thrashed every week, playing better football than we saw under Colin Calderwood. Mark Bonner's come in, and he's. Yeah, like I mentioned, he's just been a revelation. He's just really, we shipped out some quite a few players. We've brought in some. You mentioned Wes Houlihan in the quiz there. He's incredible. People know him best from his time in Norwich and time with Republic of Ireland. And he's 38 now, so he's not a young man anymore. But to see someone of that quality play for us, and just to watch him, is fantastic. It's we've been blessed in the past. We've had kind of established players turn up from the past. We had Clive Wilson, the former Spurs QPR left back, can't come to us in the early noughties. We had Luke Chadwick come back to us the year we got promoted from a conference. Chadwick's a big Cambridge fan. He always has been. Obviously played for Man United, West Ham, Stoke, Norwich, MK Dons, a few others. So yeah, we've had players like that, but Houlihan is just a different class. He's just absolutely incredible to see. Just his movement, his positioning, how he is on the ball, his vision, I suppose. How he brings other players in, and that's just had this huge effect on the team. As well as him, we've got Greg Taylor, who's been at the club almost 10 years. He joined the season we went up. I was a little bit unfair to Greg on the podcast we did. I was a little bit unfair to him, but he's been absolutely solid this season. Absolutely, super reliable. Really, really great to watch. All his defensive partners have either been loanees or young players, and he's just, he's handled them superbly, absolutely superbly. We've also got, I can't not mention Paul Mullin, who has got 22 goals for us already this season. He, for a long time he was top scorer in England. I think he's been overtaken now, but 22 goals already in the league this season. It's if he doesn't score in a game, I'm surprised. And you think, when you see someone like that, you think, they're just a poacher, or they're just in the right place at the right time. But he also does loads of work off the ball. His positioning is really good. He's never really had like a great season before. He was at Tranmere. I think he was at Swindon. I think he's played elsewhere as well. But yeah, he's never really been massively prolific. But this season is just working for him. He works really well with Houlihan. He works really well with his strike partner Joe Ironside, who, again, is another player who's got double figures, which, we haven't really had kind of two players get double figures for a season for years now. I'm struggling to remember. I think even the season we went up, we maybe had two players then, but this season's just been we've put in some really big results. We we beat Carlisle 3-0 in our first game. We've beat Newport. All these teams are up there. We've had some slightly disappointing results as well. We lost 4-1 to Salford at the end of January, but that's the only game this year we've conceded more than 2 goals. So it's just been it's been a real high this season. It's been a really, really great season. I'm really upset that we can't really be in the ground to watch it. We was lucky that we got to see 3 games in December at the Abbey, but we lost 2 of these.
So this season is Cambridge's 7th consecutive season in League Two. What do you think has made the difference this season in contrast to the others?
Definitely Wes Houlihan. Absolutely Wes Houlihan. But also Mark Bonner. Massive credit has to go to him. He's been superb. He's a local lad. He's a Cambridge fan. He's, like I said, he's a young guy. He's got his dream job pretty much. Managing his local team, and it's going really well for him. He seems to be getting the best out of all the players. He seems to be great at motivating them. He's got an assistant, Gary Waddock, who's a lot more experienced as well. So I think he should probably get a fair bit of the credit too. But yeah, it's just, it all seems to be clicking into place. Really, that's how I can describe it. There's no real one thing. It is a real team effort from everyone. It's just everyone's just putting in a shift, and we've seen it in the past where we've had players who have maybe turned up for the paycheck, or they've not really cared as much. But everyone in this team really seems to be 100% behind what the club's trying to do and what Mark Bonner's trying to do, and that is hopefully get us promoted at the end of the season.
So if Cambridge do get promoted, are there any areas of the team that you'd like to see strengthened to kind of help you with that step up to League One football?
If I'm brutally honest, we'll need quite a bit of strengthening in League One. Where when you see some of the other teams that are there, and the amount of money that gets spent by teams in League One. I don't want to single anyone out really. I mean, we've kind of long said our goalkeepers are both decent but not outstanding. Paul Mullin seems to be kind of have his heart set on moving back up to the northeast where he's from. He's from Liverpool, so I think he left his kind of wife and child up there. So he's only on a 1-year contract. He seems really happy at the club, but he's kind of said he'd like to move back at the end of the season. So if we lose him, that'll be a big blow. Our right back Kyle Noyle is also out of contract at the end of the season. He's incredible. He creates so much, but also does all the hard work defensively. He reminds me a little bit of Trent Alexander-Arnold at Liverpool. That's a really kind of massive comparison to make to someone, but they're really similar in their kind of style of play, in that attacking kind of fullback position. So if we lose him at the end of the season, that's going to be another massive loss to kind of replace. And of course, like Wes Houlihan, he's 38 now. He's not going to keep doing it forever. He seems happy. He seems to be enjoying his football, which is all we can ask. I guess at the end of the day, we should just be thankful we've got him for this season at least, and if we get another season out of him, that'd be fantastic.
So if you had to put together an all-time 11 for Cambridge, do you think many of the current players would make it into that 11? Yeah,
I think so. I mean, Wes Houlihan definitely. He's incredible. I think Kyle Noyle is certainly the best right back I've ever seen at the club. Paul Mullin, his goals speak for themselves really. Whether he'd make it in at the expense of some of the other strikers I've seen, I don't know. That's a really difficult one. We've had some great players in our time. Well, certainly in my time, before you even go back to Dion Dublin and Steve Claridge before that, who I think would be in most people's all-time Cambridge 11s. We had Dave Kitson, who went on to have a kind of good Premier League career at Reading, at Stoke as well. He played in the Premier League. We had Martin Butler, who again went to Reading and scored a lot of goals for them. We had Trevor Benjamin, who I think he's still our record sale. We got £1.5 million for him from Leicester. He went on to play for them in the Premier League. He went on to play at Championship level and for pretty much every other club you can think of. If you look at his Wikipedia page, it's pretty long. So I mean, Mullin's close. Ask me again at the end of the season, I think, on him.
So at that part of the podcast now where I get you to pitch your team, if you had to pitch your team to somebody who is fairly new to football, how would you convince them that Cambridge is the team to support?
I would just say come along and watch us. It's not always great, but you have to take the highs with the lows. If you want to watch a team that's going to win every week, yeah, we're probably not for you. But if you're going to watch, if you want to come to a club that has a real kind of community ethos about it, team that a team that's playing well on the pitch is always a big help. But the feel around the club in general, how it does, how you feel as a fan, how they make you feel as a fan when they win. That's how I would try and sell Cambridge. And the ground it's a very old traditional ground. It hasn't really had a huge amount of investment in it. It's football how it used to be, I guess. If that's how you if you're a bit of a traditionalist, I suppose it's we've still got kind of two large terraces, proper floodlights on big tall pylons, which you can see from miles around. They're apparently the tallest left in the country now. Most people have kind of gone to the floodlight method. Yeah. But yeah, it's just a good club. It's a good place to be.
Fantastic. So just before we go then, you do have your own podcast, Under the Abbey Stand. Tell us a little bit about that and where we can find it.
Yeah, so Under the Abbey Stand is there's 5 of us that do it, as well as a podcast which is on all the usual places, Spotify, Apple, Audio Boom, etc. We also have a website which we try and keep up to date with kind of fairly regular content, be that match reports, match previews, and just general articles. Any United fans can write for that. It's our way of trying to keep the club kind of in the news, I suppose. Try and feed things out to use fans, and kind of keep them coming back, I suppose. We also produce a fanzine every now and again. We managed to get one out this season. Yeah, it's kind of quite difficult. We've had a lot to write about, but we obviously haven't been able to really sell that at matches like we used to. So that's been tough, but again, we get a lot of decent writers for that, and we've been accused sometimes of being too negative. We've also been accused of being too positive. So we have to try and strike the balance right, I guess, on the podcast. But it's really enjoyable. It's a good listen. The fans seem to like it, whether they agree with us or not. And we're not aiming to tell everyone what to think, but we just like to hear everyone's views, really, and try and get as many of those views out there as possible. It's a lot different to how it used to be now, and a lot of the kind of traditional football media is all about Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham, etc., and there's people think there's not always a place for the smaller teams to be able to get their to get their news out there, to get to get that discussion. We have a radio phone in on BBC Radio Cambridge after each match, and that's good. But I think that always attracts a certain kind of a certain kind of fan. Generally, someone phoned up wanting to moan about something, and that turns a lot of people off. I can put up with it for about 15 minutes in the car, but yeah, when some of the people were phoning into that, oh my god. And then they also talk about Peterborough a lot as well, because sadly we have to share Radio Cambridge with them, and we don't like them very much, but they don't like us either. So we just want, I guess our point is to try and be the space for the used fans on the web to read about United and get that that impartial kind of line that isn't just the club's line. We hold them to account when we need to. We work with them when we need to. We like it like that. We like to work closely with them as best we can. But we're also there to make sure the kind of bad financial times we've had in the past don't happen again. And we seem to have a good owner at the moment, and he's a boyhood United fan. So fingers crossed we're not needed to do that.
Well, thank you very much, Owen, for joining us on this episode of the podcast, and good luck to Cambridge United in their quest for promotion from League Two.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Owen for talking to us, and of course thank you for listening. If you'd like to help me on my quest to speak to at least one fan from each of the teams in the 92 and talk all about your club, you can find us on Twitter at the 92 podcast or email us the92podcast@gmail.com. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the 92 podcast so that you don't miss an episode. And if you happen to be listening on Apple Podcasts, let us know what you think of the podcast by leaving us a rating and a review. Next time, I'll be talking to another fan from another club in the 92. See you then.